So we have got to talk about someone, and that someone is Ansha, the new character that was just introduced for the Pokemon Legends ZA DLC. Now, the reason why we need to talk about her is because she is very intriguing, interesting, and mysterious for a number of different reasons, and I want to try and figure out what her deal is, what her secret is, because it seems pretty obvious to me that there is much more to this character than we're currently seeing now on the surface. And obviously once the DLC comes out, we will learn more about her, and I feel like we're probably going to find out a lot in terms of her backstory and where she actually comes from. So that's what this video is about, trying to figure that all out. So Ansha appears in the Mega Dimension DLC as basically the focal point of this expansion alongside Hoopa, because Hoopa is her companion. And this is the first thing that really starts to raise some eyebrows. Hoopa is obviously a mythical Pokemon. Mythical Pokemon are so rare that it's not even known in the world of Pokemon if they actually exist at all. And Ansha is just casually hanging out with one. That obviously is going to be a thing that we are going to want to know more about. Now, with that said, in modern Pokemon, they have started to utilize legendary Pokemon a bit more with actual characters, and they are allowing more and more Pokemon trainers and like human characters to use legendary Pokemon on their teams. We see it in the games, we see it in the anime. It is something that is becoming a little more common, so maybe that's kind of just what is going on here. Maybe it doesn't have a big important reason for it other than that they just want to give a mythical Pokemon to a trainer. That is obviously the simplest answer, and I could definitely see something like that happening, but even if that's basically all this is, there's gotta be some reason as to how she ran into Hoopa in the first place. We've gotta have at least a little bit of a backstory in terms of how these two came together, and trying to explain that or guessing what that explanation might be is where a lot more questions start to pop up about this little girl. This video has been made possible by today's sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. The holidays are fast approaching, which means it's time to start thinking about gift ideas, and these boxes would make an amazing gift that would truly stand out as both unique and memorable. They're filled to the brim with Japanese snacks and treats, and they come straight from Japan, offering an experience that you simply can't get during your normal day-to-day. Right now, the fall vibes are peaking, and these boxes are offering a bunch of fall-themed treats that are sure to make the season all the cozier. I really liked these special melon-flavored Haichus in the Tokyo Treat box, and Sakura Co. is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that brings you authentic teas, cultural treats, and even an authentic piece of tableware. It's all really dope and delicious stuff, and like I said, it's a perfect gift. So hit the link in the description to grab your box today, and when you use code HOOPS at checkout, it also gets you $5 off your first box and directly supports the channel too. So it's a win-win. Again, be sure to give that a look with the link in the description, and thanks a ton to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for sponsoring. Based on the little bit of research that I have done on this topic to this point, it seems like Ansha and Hoopa pairing together could have something to do with what is going on with the rest of the DLC. For example, the name Ansha is a name that has Arabic origins, which ties her to Hoopa because Hoopa itself also has Arabic origins and themes as a genie Pokemon. So Ansha as a character was obviously distinctly designed to pair with Hoopa and kind of have the same themings as Hoopa as well, and her name actually gives us a lot of material to work with in terms of trying to figure out what the purpose of this character could be and what her backstory could entail. When looking into the name Ansha based on its Arabic origins, it reportedly means she created, she started, or she began. This is something that actually caught my attention pretty significantly because terms like she started or she began brings about a theme of beginning. And one thing that is a major theme of Legends ZA, but also other Mega Evolution focused games like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire is a theme of beginning and ending. We see this in Legend ZA with the title of the game featuring the last and the first letters of the alphabet. We also see the exact same thing with Oraz, with it being named after the Greek letters Omega and Alpha, which also represent the beginning and the ending of something. So this is definitely one of the various themes of the Mega Evolution focused games, including this one that we're playing right now that features in this DLC. So if Ansha has a character, or a name rather, that represents the beginning, it makes me wonder and suspect if there might be another character in this DLC that we have yet to see that is going to be basically connected or opposed to Ansha, who is meant to represent the end. The end of what we have yet to see, obviously, but it obviously, if that is the case, it's going to be a more antagonistic type of character. And it kinda has me believing, based on the connections that this has with the larger theming of these games as a whole, that this is something that could legitimately be possible. After all, we can pretty much say with certainty that there's going to be more new characters introduced in the DLC aside from just Ansha, and there obviously has to be an antagonist of some kind, so based on this evidence, I could very well see it being a person that represents the end. And again, whatever the end is supposed to mean in this context is yet to be seen, but that is something that seems like it could be possible. And another reason why it seems like it could be possible is because of the other major thing to do with Ansha, and that is her very, very apparent visual similarity to Diantha, the champion of the Kalos region. If you take a look at the two side by side, they are definitely connected. Like there is no arguing this, there is no debating it. Whatever happens in the DLC to kind of allude or confirm this, like there is definitely a connection here regardless. And it's really interesting when we try and figure out what that is, because despite the assuredness that there is some kind of connection here, what that connection is at this point is a lot harder to decipher. We are, however, going to try and decipher it in just a second, but the reason why I bring this up now with regards to this idea of Ansha being a beginning character and there possibly also being a villain type ending character to go along with these themes, the reason why I bring up this Diantha connection now is because Diantha, who seems to be connected to Ansha, very much had the same type of thing going for her with Lysander, because Lysander and Diantha were two characters that were very distinctly connected to one another. Seeing them interact with one another were key cutscenes within that game, and their relationship is one that was not only present, but it was very distinctive and relevant within the overall plot line of X and Y. And they kind of represent this same kind of duality between each other, because if you look at Diantha's design, and particularly her outfit, it seems fairly obvious that she's actually partially designed around an angel, because, I mean, look closely enough, and you'll practically see that she has angel wings as a part of her outfit. And then if you take a look at Lysander as the opposite to Diantha, who he is as the antagonistic character in this scenario, his design is very much in line with something that's a little more demonic or devil-like. I mean, his design is largely themed around the color red, and his hairstyle is very large and spiky and kind of juts off into two different sections, which you could say kind of fall in line with the appearance of devil horns. And if you said that, you wouldn't really be making that much of a stretch. So there is definitely some subtext going on here, both in terms of what their characters represent and also a little more literally speaking with their designs. So I bring all of this up to say that if Diantha is very clearly connected to Ansha somehow, which I believe she is, and she also has a distinct relationship with a very diametrically opposed character, which is obviously Lysander, then this kind of parallel could continue into Ansha's design, and she could have her own diametrically opposed character that could also potentially be the antagonistic character of this DLC in the same way that Lysander was the villain to Diantha's character. That then brings us to the question of how could Ansha be connected to Diantha, because again, it seems obvious that she is, but in terms of how she is, that's where things get a little more tricky, because there are a bunch of different possibilities as to how this could be the case. Given Ansha's young age and how much they truly look like one another, it is definitely not out of the possibility, in my opinion, that there could be a direct familial relation, as in Ansha could potentially be Diantha's daughter or possibly her younger sister. Given that Legend ZA takes place 5 years after X and Y, neither of these possibilities are really that far-fetched in my opinion, and it could also help to explain why Ansha is paired with Hoopa, because if you're the younger sister or possibly the daughter of the champion of the Kalos region, you're obviously going to have a little bit of gravitas when it comes to training Pokemon, and that might attract a mythical Pokemon like Hoopa, so it might end up being as simple as that. If it is one of those two possibilities though, that also brings up a really interesting idea, and that is, if this is the case, could Diantha end up making an appearance to sort of reconnect with her younger sister or her daughter? Because if this is in fact her younger daughter or her sister, you would expect that Diantha herself would also make an appearance to sort of address this, especially because it's the DLC. We've already seen one returning character to this point from X and Y in Karina, so it just feels like if the story went down that road, that is something that could potentially happen. However, there is also another explanation as to why Ansha and Hoopa could be paired together, and that might be because Ansha is Diantha's hyperspace counterpart. After all, the entire focus of the Mega Dimension DLC is a setting known as Hyperspace Lumiose, which is basically an alternate or parallel version of the Lumiose City that we know from the real world, and if Lumiose City can have an alternate counterpart to itself, then the citizens of Lumiose City and or the Kalos region as a whole could obviously have the same too. And once again, with Ansha looking so similar to Diantha, this is something that wouldn't really be that much of a stretch to say either. I've talked about in previous videos how our rivals literally have the same design as the player characters, except for different hair colors and minor tweaks like that, and how they could also potentially be the alternate versions of us from Hyperspace Lumiose. So with another character being brought into the fold that looks very, very much like an already existing character, this could potentially be building up into sort of a theme, where maybe we're gonna meet a handful of characters from Hyperspace Lumiose that are the hyperspace counterparts to the characters that we know from the actual Kalos region. Unfortunately though, our information that we have on Ansha right now at this point is limited, so that is really kind of where the road ends here as far as the speculation and theorizing, and now it is where I hand it off to you guys in the comments. Plus, we're only about a month away from the DLC's release, so we will kind of know how this all shakes out soon enough. In the meantime though, you guys are going to have to let me know all of your thoughts and ideas about this, and if you have any ideas to these questions that I proposed, and what your overall thoughts are about the possibilities that I proposed, leave it all in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. I've got way more content coming soon, and until the next one, as always, thank you so much as always for watching. I really appreciate it. And once again, until the next one, as always, I will smell you guys later.